If you constantly put everyone else's needs before your own and feel guilty the moment you stop, that isn't just who you are, it's a survival role you learned before you were old enough to choose it. In 1991, attachment researcher John Bowlby named exactly what happened to you, and once you see the pattern, it is very hard to unsee. By the end, you'll understand the precise childhood mechanism that wired your nervous system to equate love with self-erasure, and you'll hear the first real step out. Picture yourself at 7 years old. You're not in danger. Nobody is hitting you. The house looks fine from the outside. There are meals on the table and a roof overhead. But something in the air is always slightly wrong, slightly heavy, and somehow, without anyone ever saying so, you already know it's your job to fix it. Your mother sighs and you feel it in your chest before your brain even registers the sound. Your father goes quiet and your whole body orients toward him like a compass needle finding north. You are 7. You should be thinking about cartoons. Instead, you are running a constant, exhausting emotional weather report on every adult in the room. This is what researchers call emotional parentification. Not physical parentification. You weren't cooking dinner at age 6. This is subtler. This is the child who becomes the emotional barometer of the family. The one who manages moods, absorbs tension, and quietly makes themselves smaller so the atmosphere stays livable. And here is the thing nobody tells you: you were good at it. Frighteningly good. You learned to read microexpressions before you learned multiplication. You could feel a mood shift coming 20 minutes before it arrived. That skill felt like love. It was actually a survival adaptation dressed up as love. Bowlby spent decades mapping how children attach to caregivers. His core insight was that when a caregiver is emotionally unavailable, not cruel, not absent, just emotionally unreliable, the child doesn't give up on connection. The child reorganizes themselves around the caregiver's needs to keep the bond alive. You reorganized yourself, completely. Think about what emotionally unavailable actually looked like in your house. Maybe your mother was depressed and needed you to be her confidant. Maybe your father's anger was a weather system everyone navigated around. Maybe nobody was dramatically wrong, just subtly, persistently checked out. And you, small and perceptive, filled the vacuum with yourself. Here's what's coming, and it matters. That skill you developed, the hypervigilance, the people reading, the self-erasure, didn't stay in your childhood home. It followed you into every friendship, every relationship, every workplace you ever walked into. And right now, today, it is still running in the background. Stay with this. You're 9 now. A parent comes home and the energy is off. You don't ask how school was, you ask how they are. You bring them water. You make a small joke to lighten the room. You check their face after the joke to see if it landed. None of this was assigned to you. You assigned it to yourself because the alternative felt unbearable. The alternative was invisibility, not the peaceful kind. The terrifying kind where you reach for connection and find nothing reaching back. Your nervous system, which is still forming at age 9, runs a calculation. If I make myself useful, I stay connected. If I stay connected, I am safe. Usefulness becomes the price of love. And your body learns this faster than your mind does. Your shoulders tighten when someone in the room is upset. Your stomach drops when a conversation goes quiet. Your breath shallows when you sense disapproval. These aren't personality quirks. These are the physical residue of 1,000 small moments when love felt conditional on your performance. Bowlby called the resulting adult pattern compulsive caregiving. The word compulsive is doing enormous work in that phrase. It isn't just that you care for others, caring is beautiful. It's that you cannot stop, even when you are exhausted, even when you are depleted. Even when every cell in your body is asking for rest, something deeper overrides it. You are 11. A parent is crying and you sit with them and rub their back and say the right things and feel, genuinely, a warm surge of purpose. This is where it gets complicated because it doesn't feel like a burden in this moment. It feels like love. It feels like you matter. And you did matter, that part was real. The problem was what it cost you. What it cost you was your own emotional life. While you were managing everyone else's feelings, yours went unwitnessed. Your fears, your confusions, your sadness, they had nowhere to land. There was no adult scanning the room for your weather report, so you learned to archive your feelings, to fold them up neatly and put them somewhere you couldn't see them. Decades later, someone asks how you're doing, really doing, and you feel a strange blankness. Not peace, blankness. You reach for your feelings and find a filing cabinet with the drawers stuck shut. You can describe what other people are feeling in extraordinary detail. Your own interior landscape, oddly, heartbreakingly foggy. We're about to get to what this pattern does to your adult relationships, and this is the part that explains everything. The arguments that start when you finally ask for something. The partners who call you selfless as if it's a compliment. The friendships where you do 90% of the emotional labor and tell yourself it's fine. It isn't fine. Keep watching. You're 14. You've been doing this for years now, and it has become invisible to you like breathing. You don't experience it as caretaking anymore. You experience it as just being you. Your identity has quietly fused with the role. The helpful one. The calm one. The one who holds it together. You don't know yet that the role isn't you. It's a costume you've worn so long it started to feel like skin. At school, you're the friend everyone brings their problems to. You listen for hours. You give advice that is genuinely wise because you have been reading emotional subtext since you were old enough to walk. You feel needed. Being needed feels like being loved. You cannot feel the difference yet, and that distinction will haunt your adult relationships in ways you are only beginning to understand. Here is the neurological piece. A child who lives in chronic low-grade emotional vigilance, always monitoring, always adjusting, develops a nervous system that is calibrated for threat detection. Not big threats. Subtle ones, a change in tone, a millisecond of facial tension. A pause that lasts one beat too long. Your threat detector is extraordinarily sensitive, and it never really learned how to turn off. This is why, as an adult, you walk into a room and immediately scan it. Why you can feel tension between two people that they haven't acknowledged yet. Why a slightly short text message from someone you love sends a low current of dread through your body for the rest of the afternoon. You aren't anxious. You are a finely tuned instrument that was never told it could rest. Your hands know this pattern. When a conversation shifts toward someone else's pain, your hands soften, your voice drops. Your whole body opens toward them. You become, in those moments, genuinely the most present person in the room. This is a gift. It is also the thing that has been slowly, quietly draining you for most of your life. Bowlby observed something specific in adults with this pattern. They become deeply uncomfortable receiving care. Not mildly awkward, genuinely dysregulated. When someone tries to care for them, they deflect, minimize, redirect. They change the subject back to the other person. They say, "I'm fine," before the question is even finished. The role of the cared for feels, at some deep level, dangerous. Think about the last time someone genuinely tried to take care of you. Did you let them? Or did you find a way to make it about them again? Did you minimize what you needed until the moment passed? Did you feel, underneath the deflection, something that wasn't quite relief, something more like panic? That panic has a name. It's the child who learned that needing things pushes people away. This next part explains why your relationships have a specific shape, why you tend to find yourself with people who need a lot, who take a lot, who somehow never quite seem to notice when you're struggling. It isn't bad luck. It isn't a coincidence. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do, and the pattern is more precise than you know. Stay with me. You are attracted, magnetically, reliably, to people with visible needs. Not because you are a martyr. Because someone with visible needs is a relationship where you know your role. You know how to be there. You know how to be valuable. Ambiguity terrifies you more than exhaustion does. A person who needs you is a person you understand how to love. A person who is simply fine is somehow harder. And so the dynamic builds. You give, and your partner or friend or colleague receives, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet resentment begins to form. You don't let yourself feel it clearly because resentment feels selfish and selfishness feels dangerous. So it goes into the filing cabinet with everything else. And the cabinet gets heavier. Then one day, maybe you're 32, maybe 41, the cabinet gets too heavy and something comes out wrong. You snap at someone who didn't deserve it. You cry in your car on the way home from a dinner where you spent 3 hours supporting someone else. You feel a rage so disproportionate to the moment that it frightens you. This isn't a breakdown. This is the filing cabinet finally overfull. And what do? You apologize. Immediately, reflexively, completely, you apologize for having an emotion. You smooth it over. You take care of the other person's discomfort with your own outburst. You return to role, because that's what you do. That's what you've always done. The role is so deeply grooved that even your breaking points get managed back into order. Bowlby's 1991 paper, one of his last before his death that same year, described this not as a character flaw, but as an attachment strategy. A sophisticated, intelligent, creative response to an environment where emotional reciprocity was unavailable. You didn't fail to develop. You developed perfectly for the environment you were in. The tragedy is that you carried that adaptation into environments that no longer require it. Here's the cruelest part of the pattern. Compulsive caregiving feels virtuous. It is praised by culture. You are called selfless, giving, dependable, a good friend, a wonderful partner, a devoted employee. Every compliment reinforces the role. Every, "I don't know what I'd do without you," is a small hit of the validation your nervous system has been seeking since you were 7. The trap is disguised as a reward. You have probably never, not once, sat with someone who is as focused on your inner world as you are on theirs. That sentence might be landing strangely right now. Sit with it. The kind of attention you give to others, the full body, completely present, emotionally attuned attention, you have almost certainly never received it. And you may not even know that you're hungry for it because you learned to stop noticing the hunger. What's coming next is the moment the pattern breaks, or tries to. The moment you get close to someone who actually wants to give back, who asks about you, who tries to see you. And instead of relief, you feel something unexpected: discomfort, distrust, the urge to flee. This is not you being broken. This is exactly what Bowlby predicted. And it explains every relationship that confused you. Keep watching. Imagine someone sitting across from you, putting down their phone, looking at you with full attention and saying, "No, I actually want to know. How are you doing?" And you feel what? Warmth, or something stranger? A kind of squirming discomfort, an impulse to laugh it off, a sudden suspicion that this level of attention must mean something is wrong, that they must want something from you. That suspicion is the system working exactly as designed. Your attachment map says, when an adult turns their full attention toward you, it means they need something. The idea that someone might turn toward you simply because they want to see you, not because they need anything from you, that doesn't fit the map. It feels like a trick, so you wait for the ask. This is what Bowlby meant when he said the attachment pattern becomes a working model. You don't just behave this way. You perceive relationships through this lens. You filter incoming information through a model that says love is transactional, care is currency, and the moment you stop being useful, the connection is at risk. That model was built in childhood. It has been running unexamined ever since. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that belongs specifically to this pattern. It isn't the exhaustion of having done too much, though you have done too much. It's the exhaustion of never having been received, of pouring and pouring into others and having nothing poured back, not because the people in your life are all selfish, but because you won't hold still long enough to be filled. You cancel their care before it arrives. Someone offers to help you and you say, "I've got it." Someone tries to comfort you and you pivot to their problems. Someone asks what you need and you genuinely cannot answer, not because you're being polite, but because the question lands in that foggy interior space and finds nothing organized to report back. You have given so much attention outward that you have lost the map of yourself. You are in your 20s or 30s or 40s and you still wake up some mornings with that low current of anxiety, the sense that someone somewhere needs something and you haven't found them yet. Not a specific person, necessarily. Just the formless background hum of, is everyone okay? Is the room okay? Is the energy okay? You've been running this check since childhood. It is profoundly, quietly exhausting. And sometimes, maybe late at night, maybe in the shower, you have a thought that frightens you a little. You wonder if people would still love you if you stopped. If you stopped being the listener, the helper, the one who holds it together. If you simply showed up as someone who also needs things. The thought is terrifying. It is also the most important question you have ever asked. Here's the piece that changes everything. You can test the thought. You can stop, briefly, carefully, in a low-stakes moment and see what happens. Not dramatically, not a sudden withdrawal of all care, just a small pause, a moment where you let someone else fill the silence, a moment where you say, "Actually, I'm struggling a little." What comes next will tell you everything about the relationship. Stay here. Because some people in your life, when you let the mask slip, when you offer a small and genuine need, will surprise you. They will turn toward you. They will lean in. They will demonstrate that the connection was never as conditional as your nervous system believed. These are the people worth building with. This is the moment the old map starts to fail and a new one becomes possible. And some people will not know what to do. Some will get uncomfortable. Some will change the subject. Some will make a joke. Not out of malice, they simply moved into the space you used to occupy and don't know how to reorient. That information is also valuable. Not everyone in your life is capable of reciprocity. Knowing which is not selfishness. It is clarity. Bowlby's clinical work showed that the compulsive caregiving pattern is not permanent, not fixed, not a life sentence. Attachment patterns are working models, which means they were built, which means they can be rebuilt. Not quickly, not without help, but the neurological plasticity that allowed your nervous system to adapt to one environment can allow it to adapt again. The training can be undone. The path out doesn't begin with grand gestures. It doesn't begin with confrontations or ultimatums or dramatic relationship overhauls. It begins with something almost embarrassingly small. It begins with noticing. Noticing when the urge to caretake arises. Noticing the physical sensation, where it lives in your body, how urgent it feels, what thought comes just before the impulse to help arrives. That noticing is the beginning of the gap. Right now, for you, there is no gap. The trigger arrives and the behavior follows with the seamless automaticity of breathing. Noticing creates a sliver of space between the trigger and the response. In that sliver of space, choice becomes possible. Not easy, not comfortable, but possible in a way it has never been before. You will feel, when you create that gap, something uncomfortable. Guilt, most likely. The guilt of not helping, not fixing, not stepping in. That guilt is old. It comes from the 7-year-old who learned that the cost of not caretaking was disconnection. The guilt is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. The guilt is evidence that you're doing something new. Those feel identical at first. You might also feel grief. Quiet, unexpected, arriving sideways. Because when you stop running the pattern long enough to feel what's underneath it, what you often find is the child who needed someone to do this for them. Who needed an adult to read the room on their behalf. Who needed to be seen the way they saw everyone else. That child has been waiting a long time. We're almost at the part where this becomes yours, not a diagnosis, not a label, but a lens that you can actually use. The part where the research stops being about a pattern and starts being about Tuesday morning, your specific life, the specific relationship where this shows up most. Because this knowledge without application is just another interesting thing you watched once. What matters is what you do next. Start with one relationship, just one. The one where the imbalance is most visible to you, even if you've never named it. And in that relationship, practice receiving, not perfectly, not dramatically, just slightly more than you currently allow. Let a compliment land. Accept the offer of help. Answer, "How are you?" with something real, even something small and true. Notice what happens in your body when you do. Notice what happens in the relationship. Notice whether the other person rises to meet you or whether they flounder. Notice whether the connection deepens or reveals itself as something that only worked in one direction. This is not a test you administer to punish anyone. This is a test you give yourself, a gentle experiment in being someone who also exists, who also takes up space, who also matters. You were not born a caretaker. You became one in a specific home, in a specific set of circumstances, before you were old enough to choose any of it. Your nervous system learned that love required self-erasure, and it has been running that equation faithfully ever since. But Bowlby's great final gift was this: the pattern was learned, which means it can be unlearned. The training can be undone. You are not the role, you never were. Tell me, what's the one relationship in your life, right now, where you feel you have completely disappeared?